Yo, what is happening, you barbaric Bonsley? Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the new Japanese set, Lost Abyss, talking over the cool cards, the good cards, and giving you guys my thoughts on them. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. First one up is the Kiram V-Max with the ability Ice World. Yes, we are still getting V-Max Pokemon, but it doesn't seem like they haven't printed any that seem too ridiculously powerful as of late, but they are still giving us V-Max Pokemon. The Kiram seems solid, though. It's got the Ice World ability. Once on your turn, you may discard the top card of your deck if it's a water energy attaches to one of your Pokemon. So you can obviously combo this with like Rotom Phone, or probably with a Marangaroo, or just YOLO an Ice World to try and get an energy for turn. And then, of course, we do have stuff like Melanie in the format as well. And even if you're trying to get more energy accelerated to the Kiram, you could even play stuff like Turbo Patch, but you're probably not going to play Turbo Patch. And then for Water, it's got Max Frost, 120 damage, plus 50 more damage for each energy you chose to discard from the Pokemon. So it does have to be from the Kiram itself. And at the attack cost costing 3 water, so if you have 3 water on there and then you can attack, you can get up to 270 damage for discarding 3 water energy. So you're like a Choice Belt or a Goon Ping short, or another water energy short from KOing V-Stars. And you do probably need 4 water energy to KO any V-Maxes. Now this thing does have 330 HP, which is a really high HP number actually. So it is kind of like out of range out of most ways for like one hit KO. So it does have a ton of HP, and it can theoretically one hit KO anything in the format. So that's a pretty good combination of stats right there. But how frequently will you be able to get enough water energy on a Kiram to actually take those consistent one hit KOs? That's going to be the thing to find out. Like I said, you can combo. You got Melanie, Primate Wisdom, Marangaroo, and stuff like Rotom Phone. But is that going to be enough to get Kiram to be, you know, a tier 1, tier 2 deck in the format? We're going to have to wait and see. Got some good stats behind it, and I'm definitely excited to try it out when it does release. I'm going to have to scroll here for a little while. Not actually that much great Pokemon in this set. The next Pokemon I did want to talk about was the Aerodactyl V-Star, because it has a really cool V-Star attack. Besides that, though, not too much going on for 260 HP V-Star Pokemon for fighting colors. Colors does 240. Put the top 3 cards of your deck in the Lost Zone. So a pretty bad attack, especially for only 240 damage. That's a pretty costly effect. The top 3 cards of your deck, 3 random cards from the top of your deck going right to the Lost Zone. I'm not about it. But the Ancient Star V-Star attack is interesting. For 1 colorless energy, as long as this Pokemon is in play, it gains an ability with the effect your opponent's Pokemon V in play, so this includes V-Stars and V-Maxes, excluding any Aerodactyl V-Star, have no ability. So if you just go first and then turn 2 attack with Aerodactyl, your opponent can't use Starbirth on their Arceus or whatever Palkia's ability is. I forget what Palkia's ability is called, but you can't use that either. And it just shuts them all down. You can't use stuff like Crobat or Luminion as long as the Aerodactyl is in play, and that's kind of the thing there. If this Aerodactyl specifically gets KO'd, that ability, it's just an ability on the Pokemon at that point, so then the effect would leave. Even if you have another Aerodactyl in play, this is the Aerodactyl with the effect, and it does have to go into the active at some point and use an attack to be able to set up that ability initially. So I'm not too sure this will be great, to be honest. It's a really cool effect, and I'm definitely love to see this kind of effect make its way back into the game where it's kind of like a continuous effect, but I think the limitations of it are going to be a little bit too much for it to be too strong consistently in the meta. I'm sure there might be some gimmicky decks that pop up now and then while it's around in the meta where it'll be pretty decent, but I don't think it's going to be a constant mainstay in like a tier 1, tier 2 deck throughout its existence. But it is a cool effect, very interesting, and I'm glad to see more cool, interesting effects and abilities making their way back into the game, it seems like, as of late. I'll talk about the Drapion V here as well. It's got that wild style ability. This Pokemon's attacks cost 1 colorless less for each of your opponent's single, rapid, or fusion strike Pokemon in play, and the attack is 190 damage. You do 61 to one of your Pokemon for 4 colorless energy. So it is also dark type, if you did notice. So pretty strong counter to Mew for sure. If we don't already have enough ways to kind of deal with Mew, now we're going to have the Drapion V. Is potentially good up against stuff that abuse Sobble as well, though. You know, if they go for a Keep Calling turn 1, your Dynamic Tail on your turn 1 could potentially be doing 190 damage, but of course they're going to probably have a Sobble in their active because they use Keep Calling, so to combo that with like a boss and a choice with actually KO a V Pokemon is pretty unlikely, but I could see other uses with this card outside of just countering Mew potentially. So there is that, but overall seems like a good counter to Mew that we don't really need because Mew is already like not as big of a threat in the format as it has been in the past. A card like this would have been welcome, you know, 3 months ago. I would have loved a card like this being released, but at this point, I think we're kind of just beating a dead horse. And I'll mention the Giratina V-Star because we did mention the Giratina V here. 270, dark, colorless, Big Bang arms, 250, minus 10 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So not a great attack. You just need to kind of start hitting them as their Vs or as it becomes a V-Star, and it's never going to be a real threat. And then it's got that Star Hazard V-Star power. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and paralyzed. Put 3 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon during Pokemon checkup. So I can actually see this being good as like a 1/1 Tekken decks that don't really have a V-Star power to utilize. And then you just kind of have this free ability that's kind of like a triple plus power, plus it paralyzes them. You know, played as a 1/1, and then you also get the use of the Giratina V up against the Mew matchup. So I could see this being like a 1/1 in decks that don't currently have a V-Star power that they're trying to abuse. And it could be decent in that, but besides that, probably not going to see much play as like its own deck. You're not going to be playing a 4/4 Giratina V-Star deck, I don't think. Or at the very least, I don't think. I guess it could happen, but not holding my breath for that one. Okay, the big card of the set is, of course, the Giratina V-Star. So we'll start with the Giratina V because it does have some pretty good, actually, attacks on it. So 220 HP for a colorless. You look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put 2 of them into your hand, put the remaining cards in the Lost Zone. So pretty good when the big attacks from the Giratina do revolve pretty heavily around the Lost Zone. And then we got the Grass, Psychic, Colorless, Shred attack, of course, another Shred attack being put on a very good Pokemon. I wish they would stop doing this. You know, cards like Mew or this Giratina and so on don't really need a Shred attack. They're good enough. They don't need to have a way to automatically beat Miltank or stuff like the Decidueye as well. So I'd really love to see Shred attacks not being put on the big new hype cards. But another one with a Shred attack here with the Giratina. And then the Giratina V-Star, of course, the the main attraction in this set, 280 HP. For Grass, Psychic, Colorless, you do 280 damage, and then you put 2 energy attached to your Pokemon into the Lost Zone. So your Pokemon, not specifically Giratina. So you could do some weird stuff like this where you can keep the active Giratina charged up and ready to swing on your next turn by removing energy from your benched Giratina. Or even, it says put 2 energy, and if that is translated correctly, you could possibly involve DTE in this deck, and you could like attach a DTE to your benched Giratina V, and then attack with your active Giratina V-Star and use Lost Impact and discard or Lost Zone that DTE instead of, you know, your Grass or your Psychic energy. And it adds like a little bit of extra energy acceleration to the deck potentially even. So DTEs I could see being played alongside the Giratina V-Star. And to consistently set them up, we'll take a look at some of the trainer cards that are coming out in this set to help Lost Zone Pokemon in general. Specifically going to be a very big help to Giratina V-Star. And then the V-Star power for a Grass and a Psychic. If you have 10 or more, you can only use this attack if you have 10 or more cards in your Lost Zone. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now knocked out. They're just KO'd. So pretty good. Theoretically with Giratina, you only need to use like Lost Impact twice and then Star Requiem, the V-Star attack on another 2 prize Pokemon. And that can be your 3 knockouts for game. So that's kind of scary. Getting into the item cards here. Like I said, going to be a pretty big deal for Giratina specifically, of course. Mirage Gate. You may play this card only if you have 7 or more cards in your Lost Zone. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy of different types and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle your deck. So you need to get 7 more cards in the Lost Zone, and then you get to go ahead and search your deck for 2 basic energies and attach them to your Pokemon. So that's your energy acceleration for the Giratina. We got the Lost Sweeper, more of a utility Lost Zone card. Put a card from your hand into the Lost Zone in order to use this card. Choose either a Pokemon Tool card or Stadium card in play, yours or your opponent, and put it into the Lost Zone. So some new kind of tool removal, stadium removal. I could see this being played in other decks outside of the Giratina deck, but definitely going to be played in Giratina as like a 1 or a 2 of. We got the Colress's Experiment, a draw supporter that revolves around the Lost Zone. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Put 3 of them into your hand. Put the remaining cards in the Lost Zone. So you get 3 to go to the Lost Zone. So quite a few cards that accelerate cards into the Lost Zone. So you can use Giratina. Very powerful supporter coming out in Thornton as well. Not a Lost Zone revolved around card, but still a very card nonetheless. Choose a basic Pokemon in your discard pile. Switch it with one of your basic Pokemon in play. Any cards attached, damage counter, special condition, turns and plays And any other effects remain on the new Pokemon, so you can combo this. People talk about comboing this with Regigigas or the Regi deck, so you use Regigigas to accelerate a bunch of energy onto one of your Regis, and then you can Thornton into, I don't know, some random cool Pokemon for the situation and just kind of do stuff with it. So that's kind of cool. Thornton could be interesting for decks like that. Very powerful card. The format is very fast right now, so it's hard to try and find time to use these heavy utility supporter cards. So I don't know if it'll for sure be good, but it definitely seems interesting. Fantina, you can only play this card if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone. During your opponent's next turn, your Pokemon take 120 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon V. So this supporter actually seems pretty good if you can get it, find it consistently after you've gotten 10 or more cards in your Lost Zone. Of course, that's going to be the trick, but taking 120 less damage during your next turn is a pretty big deal. So I could definitely see this card being pretty decent for sure. Maybe not even just in the Giratina deck, but some kind of stall deck or healing deck or something like that. But pretty powerful effect from a supporter. 120 less damage. You're basically not getting KO'd next turn for sure if your Pokemon had full HP. Lost City, when a Pokemon is knocked out, put it in the Lost Zone instead of discarding it. I don't know how good this stadium is going to be. Reactive stadiums like this usually aren't great. Of course, if you're going out of your way to put it in play the turn you knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon because you really want it in the Lost Zone, that could be okay, I guess. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Lost City. It doesn't seem great, but another Lost Zone card, so I thought I'd mention it. And then we have Gift Energy. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, draw cards until you have 7 in your hand. So Gift Energy doesn't seem great either. Lucky Egg seems like it would probably be a better card to play overall if you're looking for that effect of I get KO'd, I draw up to 7 cards. One more card I wanted to mention that I actually missed on my initial scroll down is the Comfey with the ability Flower Picking. Once on your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, put the other into the Lost Zone. So it definitely seems like this will probably be the main engine that the Giratina decks will probably be built around, is the Comfey engine. You'll probably play like 4 Comfey, scoop up nets, maybe some switch cards, air balloons, whatever. Try and use that Flower Picking as much as possible, as many as possible, as early as possible. And then you just kind of accelerate a bunch of cards into the Lost Zone, so you can use the more powerful cards like the energy, the Mirage, whatever it's called, and then even maybe like Fantina. But yeah, the Mirage Gate is the card you're really trying to get to as soon as possible. And of course, the V-Star attack from the Giratina as well. And that's going to do it for my thoughts on the cards coming out of Lost Abyss. Giratina seems really good. But of course, it could be one of those cards, kind of like the Reshiram or like Mewtwo V-Star, where you kind of just need a little bit too much to get them going and have them constantly be taking knockouts turn to turn. So it might not be as good as it seems, although it does seem very powerful. And usually when they kind of print a card like this, they want it to be good as well, and they've probably tested it enough to make sure it is good. So it'll probably be good. Giratina V-Star will probably be a tier 1 deck when it does release. And one of the biggest things about it is it does not have weakness, because dragons just don't have weakness. So it's going to be hard to counter it as well. No weakness, 280 damage. You're basically 1 KO in anything super relevant in the format currently. Of course, we'll get some more cards alongside the Giratina when it does release to us here in English. But yeah, who knows for sure. Definitely seems very powerful. Definitely going to be scary when it releases. But we'll have to wait and see for sure. And that's going to do it for my thoughts on Lost Abyss. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give it a like. Be sure to subscribe. Leave me a comment. What card are you most excited for from this Lost Abyss set when we finally do get it here in America? What are you looking forward to the most? And I'll catch y'all in the next video.